In this lecture, we're going to be going over how to draw the human nose. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'd like to say is that when I'm drawing the human nose, I like to think of it in two different ways. The first one is I like to think of it as a boomerang type shape. So if we come right over here to the corner of my page, I'm going to go ahead and draw the shape of my nose. And this isn't the shape of the entire nose, this is the shape of the bottom of the nose and the shadow underneath it. So if I draw a shape like that, now I can go ahead and draw my nostrils in. So my nostrils are basically just going to be sort of raindrop type shapes. And then I can go ahead and fill those in with a darker value. And then from there, we can go ahead and fill the shape in with a mid-tone value, like so. And now we have the shape and the shadow of the bottom of the nose. Now, if you're not seeing it yet, let's go ahead and add some further detail. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a line like so, and a line like so, and then two lines underneath here. And now that makes up the bottom middle part of my nose. And then I can go ahead and also add in a line on this edge like so, that then also comes up into my white area. And now I have a very basic nose. I could go ahead and take that a little bit farther by adding a little bit more shading and shape to my nose. But that's the first way I like to think about the nose. The next way I like to think about my nose is as three circles. So let's go ahead and draw our three circles. So first off, we have our large circle, which is the center of our nose. Then we have our two circles on the ends, which make up these nostrils. So I'm going to go ahead and draw one right here, and I'm going to draw another one right there. Now from here, I can go ahead and draw my nose. So if I want, I can start off by creating that boomerang type shape, and then filling that in. Then I can go ahead and add in my nostrils. And then I can go ahead and add in some more shading, more of a ledge to my nostrils. And I can erase away anything up here that I was using as a guide, but I no longer want to see. So that's also a very basic way to draw a nose. Now, the point of drawing with these three circles is this is how you can create the size of your nose. So if I wanted my nose to be bigger, I could go ahead and draw my circle larger. And then I can draw my two smaller circles larger too, and I can change the placement of them to change the shape of my nose. So if I bring my circles more down towards the bottom like so, well, now I have a different shaped nose. So I can go ahead and draw in my nostrils first off, and then I can go ahead and draw in the bottom part of my nose, and those can lead into my nostril holes. Then I can go ahead and draw in my boomerang shape. And I can fill that in. Then I'll add in some more shading and detailing, and I'll also erase away these guidelines. But that's how you can create different sized noses. So I really encourage you to think about noses in these two simple shape ways. By thinking of the bottom of the nose as a shadow that's shaped like a boomerang, and then thinking of the main shape of the nose as a large circle, and then the two nostrils as two smaller circles that you can then go ahead and further detail and add in your nostril holes, the edge of your nostrils, and the main middle part of the nostril. Now let's go ahead and learn how to draw the nostril from the front view. So the nostril goes all the way up to the brow of the face. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and start to sketch out our nose. So we're going to start off with the nostrils, and then we'll start off with the second nostril on the other side. And then what we have is we have the middle part of our nose. So first off, we have this bottom area like we drew before over here. And then we have the underside of the nostril. Now, it's really important that when you're drawing the human face that you use some reference while you're drawing. So there's the basic shape of the human nose. Next, what we need to do is we need to start adding in some values and shadows. So starting with up here, we need to add some values and shadows to shape the bridge of the nose. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding some darker shadows down this edge. And they start from the corner of the eye and come all the way down to the bottom of the nose, which then start to morph into the shape of this middle part of the nose. So now we can start shaping that by adding values underneath the nose and on the side of the nose. And we'll continue to layer in that shading. Then we can go ahead and start to darken in our nostril holes. And the nostril holes aren't always completely black. They usually start off really dark towards the top, and as you get to the bottom of the nostril hole, they start to lighten up a little bit, like so. Next, let's go ahead and add the shading on this side of the nose, on the underside, like so. And also, there tends to be a little bit of a highlight on this ledge of the nostril hole, so we'll leave out a little bit of white right there to make it look more realistic. This is why it's very important to use reference, is because you'll see and pick up little things like that. Now let's go ahead and add some more shading underneath this larger part of the nose, and we can add some more shading under this part of the nose too. And this is going to be our cast shadow. Because the light source is coming from the top, that means it's going to be casting a shadow underneath the nose. Now, this doesn't have to be a very hard-edged cast shadow. We can go ahead and keep it pretty soft on the edges. Then we'll continue to darken everything in. So I'm going to add some more shadow on this underside. Same with this side. Then I'm going to add a little bit of some light shading right across here. Then we'll go ahead and add some more shading to these edges and also to this edge of our nostril. And I think the bottom of our nose needs to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to go in there and add some more shading like so. Then I need to go in there and redarken all of my previous shading so it still has that form and dimension. All right, great. So there's our nose from the front view. We can darken in up here a little bit more if we like. I'm just noticing in my reference that it's a little bit darker up there. All right, great. So now let's move on to drawing the nose from a side view. So it's important to know how to draw different parts of the face from every possible view, because depending on what type of drawing you're doing, you may find that you need to draw a nose from a different view. So let's go ahead and draw one from the side view. So first off, we need to think of it as sort of a number 7. Like we went over before, a lot of people accidentally draw noses as 7s, which is relatively close. The thing is that the nose is actually broken up into much more of a shape than just a number 7. So we want to draw an upside down number 7 like so. Next, what we can do is we can go ahead and slice off this corner right here, and that's going to be this bottom plane of the nose. So we've sliced that off. Next, we need to bring this line down just a little bit more at an angle. Rather than being a straight horizontal line, it needs to be more angled, and then that will curve into the upper part of the lip. Then we need to go ahead and find out where the edge of our nostril is going to be and our nostril hole. So you can start with whichever one you'd like. I usually start with the nostril hole itself. And the nostril hole tends to kind of go up just a little bit and then come back down. And depending on whose nose it is, this hole could be longer or it could be shorter. In this case, it's going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be a man's nostril hole. And then we're going to go ahead and add in the edge of our nose or our nostril. So it's going to start pretty close to that edge of the hole, and as it gets out here, it's going to become wider between that space. And that's basically the side view of the nose. Depending on whose nose this is, you might have this line right here either curve downwards, or you might have it curve up like so, or you might have it a little bit wavy. So in this case, we're going to make it a little wavy. So first, it's going to come in like so. So this becomes sort of one of its own shape right there. And then it's going to come back out a little bit, and then it's going to wave back in like so. Then we're going to go ahead and add in the shading on the bottom part of the nose. So in this case, we just want to basically draw a line underneath this bottom area, and we can go ahead and shade that in with a mid-tone value. And we can also add a little bit of that cast shadow underneath. And then we can go ahead and start darkening in the shadow underneath our nostril hole. Great. Next, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and start adding some more shading in along this edge right here so that we start to get the form of this part of the nose, and then we can also add some shading on this back edge. And again, I'm looking at reference, so I have a good idea of where I want my lights and shadows to be. Then I'm going to add a little bit more of a shadow along this under edge and above my nostril hole. And then I'm going to go ahead and curve this line out a little bit more and soften it. Sometimes you don't want your lines to be too hard. Then I'm going to go ahead and add some more shading underneath here. And then I'm going to add a little bit of shading along this edge. All right, great. So now we have the side view of a nose. Now the last thing I want to show you how to draw is I want to show you how to draw a nose from a sort of 45-degree angle. So let's go ahead and do that. So the first thing we need to do is we need to understand that you're going to see more of one side of the nose than the other. So basically, we're going to break it up into, first off, our basic 3 circles. So there's the first one, there's the next one, and then there's the other one. But you'll see that this one is a little bit more behind this larger circle than this one. That's because we're looking at it more from this angle. So now we can go ahead and start adding in our details. So first off, we're going to start with the main shape of the nose, but since we're looking at it from the side, we're going to get a mix between these two views. So we're going to see a little bit of this angle and a little bit of that angle. So we're going to go ahead and add that in. So we get sort of that kind of a shape, and then that turns into the bottom of our nostril. And then we can go ahead and add in our second nostril, like so. And then this bottom shape is going to turn into our nostril hole. And then this bottom shape right here doesn't actually turn into our nostril hole. Our nostril hole actually starts up here. And then we can go ahead and add that in and fill it in a little bit. Perfect. Next, let's go ahead and finish out the shape of this nostril on this side. And then let's go ahead and add in a little bit of a guideline right here for that side of the nose. Now this looks kind of funny, but once we start adding in our shading, it'll look much better. So what we want to do is we want to start off by adding the shading on the bottom side of the nose. Now some people's nose are split up into sort of 2 separate shapes. So one on this side and one on this side. In this case, our nose is going to be like that. So our shadow starts to come up into that shape a little bit. And then we're going to go ahead and add in the shape on this other side, or the shading onto that side. And then we're going to go ahead and add some shading on the underside of this nose and on this side of the nostril. And we'll go ahead and shade that all the way over. And then we can add in a little bit of a cast shadow on this side. Great. Next, let's go ahead and add in a little bit more of the bridge of our nose up here. So we're just going to add a little bit of a line right there. And then over here, we're going to add a little bit of some darker shadowing. We might bring that line over a little bit more. We'll bring that shadowing all the way down to here. Great. Then I'm going to go ahead and erase away a little bit of that guideline that I had for the shape. And now we can really start detailing things in. So starting with my nostril hole, I'm going to darken that in. Same with the other side. So go ahead and darken that in. And then I want to go ahead and start adding some more shading in here and darkening some of the areas. And adding some lighter shading up here in this lighter area, just so we can start to create some more form. All right, great. So now we have the nose from a 45-degree angle. That brings us to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, we learned how to draw the human nose. First, we learned to look at it as a boomerang type shape. Now this boomerang type shape is the shape of the bottom of the shadow of the nose. I find that this is the simplest way to think of the nose and to roughly sketch it in. The next way we learned about to think of the nose is by drawing 3 circles. A large circle for the middle, and 2 smaller circles for the nostrils. Then we learned how to draw the nose from the front view, the side view, and a 3/4 view. Now, your assignment for this lecture is to go ahead and draw at least one nose, but I recommend that you draw at least 5 different noses from reference images. Then post one of those to the Q&A section of the course, or the Facebook group. Thanks for watching, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next lecture, where we're going to learn how to draw the human mouth.